Can I ask that everybody please try and come to the front, and let's try and come to the side as well, so that we make the room more intimate. We're going to have an intimate discussion today. So all the people balloting at the back there, if I can just ask you if you can come to the front, all of you at the back there. Nothing is going to happen to you in the front. I promise you now, you are safe. Thank you very much. Thank you for being here. This is the meeting of the EFF, and it's called the Manifesto Consultation Assembly. We'll explain later on what the purpose of the meeting is. But for now, let me introduce the leadership that is here, or maybe let me ask the provincial secretary to introduce the provincial and regional leadership, and then I'll introduce the national leadership. Thank you, Secretary.
Thank you very much. My name is Moshe Koma. I'm the EFF Provincial Secretary Mahoti. On my far left is our organizer in the province, Vita Belinda Shikwan. Next to her is Vita Chairperson of Johannesburg. Next to her, we have got the Chairperson of Johannesburg Region, James Banza, Vita Musanove. Thank you very much.
I think you're allowed to stand up and say, Amandla. It's okay. I think everybody in this meeting here understands what that means. Let me then introduce the chairperson of the EFF in the province of Gauteng. Her name is Mandisa Mashego. And then I also would have wanted to introduce the national spokesperson who is here, or he's there at the back. His name is Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. I think you all know him. And then I will introduce the People's Advocate, Darling Bof. And then later on, we will introduce the president of the organization. Ladies and gentlemen, the purpose of the meeting today, it's very simple. We're not going to take long with you. We are actually here to listen to you. The EFF wants to listen to the industry so that we speak with a mandate from the industry. So we're going to listen to you and hear from you. What are the issues and what are the solutions? We're not just here for problems, by the way. If you've got solutions, we are also here for those. But the understanding is that you will speak to us and we will listen to you. That is the purpose of the meeting. So that we then go into the elections machinery with a manifesto that comes from the horse's mouth, that comes from the industry itself. But going further, the idea is that the EFF will then get more involved in, we understand that we haven't been as involved as we would have liked to have been in the creative industry. We want to play a more positive role in the industry so that we, we begin to solve some of these issues that we're going to talk about today. So we're not going to waste any more time. I saw that there's a roving mic here. Yes, okay, excellent. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to take 5 hands in the first batch. Just voice, tell us your name, which industry you are involved in, what is your role, what is your profession, in the industry, and then let's hear from you. I'll take the first 5 hands. So just record in your head what number you are. You're number 1, you'll be number 2, you'll be number 3, you'll be number 4, and you'll be number 5. That will be the first batch. Thank you very much.
Greetings to everybody here. Kamala, my name is Lwazi. I'm a senior graphic designer at TCF, and basically I'm here, I guess, to propose a few ideas which I've seen things lacking. I've got this idea like for schools, because schools are like a place which have already it's a facility that has electricity and it has space. So my idea is that this idea of learning graphic design, these programs, photography, videography, fashion, we can use that space to teach kids in school, whether it's on Saturday or after school, and utilize graduates, like unemployed graduates, in these spaces, because those schools, government schools, they are empty on Saturdays and Sundays. Even after school, there's no programs where, like graphic design, they teach kids paint. I think they're still teaching them paint. Whereas these programs are available. Illustrator, Photoshop, 3D programs, they're accessible. So a school can easily get those programs and get graduates that are not working to teach these students. Same as photography, videography, fashion. I mean, to get sewing machines in a class and teach the interested students, and that cuts away from them getting influenced in drugs on Saturdays, on weekends, because the electricity is there. And yeah, that is even country clubs. I've noticed that there's a lot of country clubs in the former white suburbs that are just still occupied by white people. And when you go there, they have this club thing going on. If you want to do something there, they have a lease for, I don't know how long these leases they have. And basically those communities, we're not allowed to use those spaces to do events or whatever. So yeah, that is my say.
Thank you very much. Thank you. That's enlightening.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Tabo Ramjapedi. I actually attended the Black Professionals Consultative Session Center, and then now I had raised the issues of racism in Transnet and COSATU for selling out workers. And then now, when I got home, I got calls from my ex-colleagues there in Transnet. They said, hey, we saw you on the Twitter at EFF, and also Dr. Josie has also retweeted your issue. And then now they told me that now the white guys there from Transnet, they are scared. They are having secret meetings. And as well, I had also raised the point that I had sent a complaint to Minister Praveen through his department. And then I said that I did not receive any response from them for 8 months. And then just 2 weeks after the tweet from EFF, I got a response from the department. So now it appeared to me that when the EFF speaks, people shake. And then now, right now the guys are scared, and then now it appears that now to me that the EFF have put the bullet in the chimney. So now the guys are scared, and what is needed now is for the EFF to actually pull the trigger. So I've been communicating with the Secretary, Moshe Koma. I had requested him to meet with you so that I can give you the information. And then he advised me to come here today, and I'm asking, after this session, if I can have a word. I've prepared here a memory stick. It's letters that I want to give to you as the leadership, and to edit according to your standards, and then I send it to them so that the pyramid can come crumbling.
Sure.
Thank you.
Thanks, Baba. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Babzito. I'm an independent musician, paid rapper. I run a label. So I came here first as a music industry practitioner, but also as a researcher. Currently conducting a research on independent musicians from West Business School. And so the issues that I have is, looking at the way the music industry has evolved and the business model shifting to independence. How can we help independent musicians that are coming on every day, equip them with entrepreneurial competencies for them to achieve commercial success? So the proposal that I have as part of the EFF's manifesto is to probably challenge the Department of Small Business Development to create incubation programs, such as the incubation programs in the for small and medium enterprises for independent musicians. Take them through training, teach them entrepreneurial skills such as marketing, planning, budgeting, and so on, so that when they come out of that program, they can be able to sell their brand and reach a certain level of commercial success. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Afternoon, everyone. My name is Nkosinathi Nkosi, aka Smeganati. I am representing an industry of music and art industry. My biggest concern about our fellow black people is poor mentality in every sphere, in every industry. Poor mentality. So what my label, its objective is, we want to awaken our black nation from blasphemy and from historical hidden colors to equip them with musical and film therapy. Why I'm saying this is because apartheid in the era, it has negatively impacted on our forefathers and parents, mentally wise. So what I'm proposing here and what I'm suggesting to the party is that may we take this thought of school of thought. There's a school of thought that black people should establish so that we can have black people who are now on another level in terms of thinking. It's most appalling to know that 95% of the people of the world are drifting aimlessly without a slightest conception of the work which they are best fitted. So I say every time to the youth that I'm busy within Ward 104 and Ward 106 in Centurion, to say, do not be a drifter in the sea of life. And don't tell the world what you can do, just show it. Because all great leaders base their leadership upon a definitive aim. The reason why I'm saying poverty mentality is because our youth and our adults, their mentality will be blocked. The majority will lead them to an estrangement, preventing healing, innovation. And innovation, we need it as a country. And this thing, it promotes depression that will result to slavery. Lastly, our youth will be chained by substance abuse. I'm a full-time musician, I'm a full-time filmmaker. I spent 5 years on the underground, learning, gathering, classifying, and also experiencing the knowledge. Seeing other black fellas not realizing what the best gift that they have within them. They have this mentality of saying, I'm a hustler. And they forget that we might utilize what God deposited in you in making a change in this country. So, I harmonize 100% with the vision of EFF. And when I say EFF, I mean us fighters. We will show radical and militant activities. Workers' movement, non-government organization must come together. Community-based organization must come together. Lobby groups under the need to pursue the struggle for economic emancipation in our country, South Africa. In my conclusion, comrades, is this: music and film a major media mass distraction. Young people, young ones, when they grow up, they watch. They see what they watch, and eventually they imitate. Our DJ was playing music that is a good food to our soul. Everyone was in one harmony. If we can improve our music to be a music that is meaningful, value, it must have sense in the lyrics, so that the young ones, when they listen, because they are our future generation, they must know. And those films that you watch, they must give power to Black Nation to say, no, they taught me this. They said I am a chicken, I am an eagle. So through our films, through our music, Black people will receive their therapy.
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. The last hand was this side here. Let's try and be to the point.
Dumela. Okay, ka mokaba le gone mo fitla mona. Nna ke a ke mongao. Ke tswa ke le ka setting ya ka mo Tshwane ka mona. Ke tswa ke le go Lotus Garden Code 7. Nna ke ntwena ke ramino, ke sibini, ke na le production, which is a music production. Mo loring re krea di challenges ha re le mo hae mona ha re tlhokomele rona the musicians. My question again to one, re na le arts and culture. Arts and culture, who is the beneficiary of arts and culture? Ke rona the musicians or ke batho ba berekang ka mo department e la rona or jwang? Ke ntse ke batla ho tseba because of as arts and culture e teng ka baka la hore hona le batho ba etsang arts. Mara rona ha re lebellwe jwalo ka he as the beneficiary. So ke makala act A1 ya hore the beneficiary arts and culture or hore ke batho ba etsang arts. So ya ra hore therefore re tshwanetse re fiwe the opportunity tsa ho bereka in the department. Arts and culture re bua ka motho le hore o mongwe ha tla sekolong but ona le talent. Motho ona ana le talent a sa fiwe monyetla in arts and culture. Re na le batho ba le hore today bana ba bantshi they got talent. They are on the streets. Bana le talent. Cause of arts and culture, high level the musicians, high level batho ba etsang art. So that's why people they end up give up in their talents. Ba feletsa ba le strateng ba ya go di drugsing. Mara henka belor arts and culture, it take a care ka batho ba etsang art. Ke nahana hore maphelo a bophelo baka as a musician. Batho ba lo horeng ba etsa ba rata this ntwe ke etsang enka be lo ba nyaka ba bona gore hona le changes in my life me ba tlo ba bantshi but just because of ba khona ho bona hore bra a ke le yena self wa itshokolela e ra hore industry ha o etsa le next but we got the government which we call arts and culture. But how can I compare the person who's working in arts and culture le nna eskele a person o tsama on the street? There's a different motho ola yena bophelo ba e bo better than ba motho a etsang ntwena. So a re lebeleng act ena ya beneficiary nna ke etsa boipiletso gore ha batho mo re fa the opportunities tsa gore re bereke in arts and culture cause sports o ka se be coachara o senke wa bantwena ka ra arts and culture we need MMC e lo gore it tshwantse a tswe mo tabeng e tsa rona as the musicians. Re need batho ba lo gore tshwanetse ba bereke ka ra office ya arts and culture. South Africa e ka lokisa ke only if re fa batho ba tshwanetseng that platform ka ra arts and culture. So engwe gape ke ntwena ke piracy. As the musicians ha re phumelle just because of mapodisa ha ba re thusi government ya rona e ra hore ha re thusi on that thing. So nna ne ke gopela gore mo piracy gore re kgone go stopa le ma corporate ke taba e1 he ba krea motho a tshwere CD ya ka ke le aiki tshwanetse a be le a sentence ya high. Therefore ke ntwe tla kgonang go stopa dio tse dintsi tsa pirates because of motho. He will know that or ha ke tshwere the album tsa batho ba 20 kam obviously mapodisa ba ntshwara ke ba pirate. That means here I'm going to get 5 years from each artist. So ke ntwena lore nna ke ikeletsa boikgopelo gore batho ba modimo re a rata gore re ka tswelela mara ka baka la gore re buswa ke batho ba lore a ba tsebe next ha o nyaka budget o nyaka di equipment ba o fa lengwalo le lo gore musale o araba ke bora mo go phaka nako ila ka lona le even today on other office ha o nyaka something again they still give you the very same letter e lo gore o sale wa faila ho nyaka dilo ba o ro botsa gore ha ba ne budget. So ke gopela arts and culture le lebelle botse ba e sho gore South Africa e khone ho loka hona le talent tse dintsi mona. So ha re emeng ka ntwe one beneficiary arts and culture gopela opportunity in the offices so that we can work le rona kara arts and culture, and then but ba lo reng aba high schoolong but they are born talented tshwanetse ba fiwe the opportunities. Government e change batho ba khone ho iswa dikolong. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Industry. Bomulepo is there. He'll be number 1. Number 2. Number 3. Number 4. And number 5. That will be the second batch. Bomulepo, number 1.
Tobela.
Sure.
Nugget number Bomulepo. Kula fana re introduce what we do in the sector.
Sure.
I'm an actor and a producer in the theatre. I've been involved in the industry with various structures, and I've also served in most of the entities of government as an independent theatre practitioner. So I had the privilege of being invited to go and serve. I mean, I was talking to Bongani now, we were making a disclaimer that just for the leadership to know that last week we were invited to a meeting, and today I'm here again to come and speak. Yeah, so that people do not go around distorting us. We'll just make a disclaimer because we were there last week and today we are here. Because we've been in the sector. I just want to highlight a few issues so that when I talk, I can talk on those issues. And I'm sorry if I'll take a little bit of a time. But the first issue that I want to talk about is the funding in the sector. The second one is infrastructure. The third one is networking. The fourth one is research. And the fifth one is skills development. In the 24 years of democracy, I can declare and openly say there has been funding in the sector, very scattered, and as a result, we are unable to measure the impact of the money spent in the arts in the last 24 years.
Sure.
We can't measure that impact. And the reason we can't measure that impact is that, for an example, we have, let's say in government, we have 5 bodies that distribute money. We have the lottery, we have the Arts and Culture Trust Fund, we have the National Arts Council, we have the National Arts Council, we have the Provincial Arts and Culture Councils. Those are all state entities that distribute money in the arts. I mean, in film, then you have the NFBF. And all of that funding comes in bits and pieces everywhere across the country. And as a result, if we're looking at organizations that existed in the first 10 years of democracy, some have received the funding and the majority of those are no longer in existence. So the funding in the arts is in 2 forms. We've got also a lot of private funding that is also in the arts, which is done through banks. You have Shongololo through FNB, you have your APSA also doing quite a lot. So you have all of those, and then you have the EU funding, which comes through various entities. The Goethe Institute, the Swedish also do a lot of funding, CIDA, and the Norwegians. So there's quite a lot of funding, but the impact of it is not there. The first suggestion will be to call for Arts and Culture Funding Summit in 2019. And to bring everybody on board to look at how we could be able to measure that impact and be able to say, in our distribution and allocation, what is the purpose? The general challenge with the funding at the moment in the arts industry is because it does not have a plan. What is it that we want to achieve in 5 years as a country? If it's about addressing the past imbalances, how are we going to do that? And what are the challenges that we really need to address? So at the moment, it's a matter of who does what project, and people have now mastered proposal writing. And they hop around just getting the funding. Some have even now mastered no longer doing the projects, but they've now mastered getting the money. So just that one around funding. In terms of infrastructure in the country, our government, we have inherited 6 theaters, for an example. So you will know that we have also museums within the sector, then we have the theaters. So when I talk about the theaters, we have 6 theaters that we have inherited from the apartheid government. And those 6 theaters are within 3 or 4 provinces, if I'm not mistaken. 3 are in Gauteng, 1 is in Cape Town, the Arts Cape, Playhouse in KZN, and what else?
Parkhouse.
And Parkhouse in Free State, so 6 of them. In total, all those 6 theaters, they receive about 320 million a year, which is broken down into 50 million or 60 million per theater. And we know now that in the last 25 years, there has been chaos with all the theaters. Management, mismanagement, some of the leaders of those theaters are now in lifetime mode. They're not changing every 5 years. It's job for pals. They've been producing their own works. It's been chaotic, and that has been, which is one thing that I even proposed in the ANC meeting, to say you need to institute an investigation in the state-owned. There are about also 38, if I'm not mistaken, what we call civic theaters that are within small towns. You will find them in Wheatbank, wherever. There are small theaters that have been built during apartheid. In the 25 years, we've been unable as a country to make all those small theaters to function. And I'll tell you why we've been unable to make them function is because if you look at that comes to arts and culture, you do not have local arts and culture councils. So in the planning process of government, arts is not involved at the local level. So which is something that as an immediate to change, we need to call for establishment of local arts and culture councils. Other provinces do not have provincial arts councils. Those that have provincial arts councils, those provincial arts councils are not functional. And when I'm saying they are not functional, I'll give you an example. In one province, they have a budget of about 1 million for the provincial arts and council to function, or let's say 5 million for argument's sake, for the whole province to develop the arts in the province. And then over a weekend, they spend 40 million on a festival. So that says a lot about us, and that's what is happening at the moment, where you are able to spend 40 million over a weekend for a festival, and then you allocate 5 million for the development of the arts in the province. I mean, you know those festivals. In terms of networking in the country, I was also very fortunate to be part of a task team that was established a few years ago in 2015 and 2016 to establish a cultural industry federation, which we came with an organization called Creative Industry Federation of South Africa, CIFSA. which at the moment is in a chaotic state. We handed it over to the artist in 2016 in Bloemfontein, and at the moment is in a chaotic state. But the key challenges about CIFSA, there are two. One was, what kind of a body are we looking at? Of which we as the task team had a model that we had envisaged for that body, whereas when it was then presented to the industry developed a different model to it. Our model that we were proposing, which we had serious challenges with our own government and the department about that model, that we even went as far as consulting with ANC to House to go and present the model that we were looking for, which we felt the department was not in favor of it. And we created that argument to that level, was that we needed to create an industry body that could be regulated by an act of parliament in a model of SASCOC. We do not need an advisory body that is going to act as a mass movement. And the reason why we were proposing that SASCOC model is because we were suggesting that we needed to regulate the sector. If you are an actor, you must then register with the Actors' Council, so that you cannot be employed by anyone anywhere if you do not produce membership of the Actors' Council. So that the Actors' Council can then start regulating salary rates on levels. It's the same if you are a producer, you must then go and register with the Producers' Council, so that the Producers' Council can regulate. As administrators, you do the same with the council there, so that we do not have a free-for-all kind of an industry. We professionalize and industrialize the sector in the 21st century. But we realized that we were not winning towards that model because the present landscape creates an opportunity for vultures to survive, but also creates an opportunity for those that are running the industry to remain at the helm of it. So as a result, as we speak now, CIFSA is in chaos. And now there has been an establishment of something by other rebel group or whatever that they are. They call themselves whatever. But the next call at the moment is that we're trying to say we need to call for an agent. CIFSA hasn't met as a general council in the last 3 years. There hasn't been a conference of it in the last 3 years. And we're calling for all of those at the moment, and we're not sure if we are really winning in trying to get that. So as a result, the industry does not have a leading organization. One strong entity that we will have to acknowledge its role at the moment is that there's a union called SAGA, South African Guild of Artists, which is really pushing on the other side. And we need to find a way on, because SAGA is more of a union, but we do not have an industry movement, an entity that really runs and governs the industry. So that all those councils, if they are created, then they are able to affiliate to the mother body, exactly as the way SASCOC runs, that you have soccer body, you have cricket, you have all of those, all of them looking at that. Because once you have that kind of a body, you could be able to address the funding issue, because all the money will have to go through that kind of an entity, which all the substructures then receive their annual expenditures from that particular body. In terms of research, at the moment in the arts industry, we have what we call the South African Cultural Observatory, which seems to be a mother body that is harboring all the researches that have been done in the arts. And this body has been able to meet in the last 2 years. But it's at a very elite level, which is a challenge also for the sector itself. In terms of skills development, like you, my brother was talking here, there are majority of practitioners in the industry, some that have really been in our townships for years. And we know them. I mean, we can mention Tesla, Lomaredi, Paul Rapid, or whoever we can mention. People that have been in townships and really have groomed the majority of us, who are unable to be acknowledged in terms of skills because they do not have papers to produce. few years ago, the University of Wits has established a program called Drama for Life, which acknowledges the recognition of prior learning, which some of us have been through that, and we're able to get our degrees through that program. And the question is, how do we then extend that kind of a knowledge to the entire industry, so that most of majority of practitioners who have been in the sector and do not have documents and papers to produce to show their skills level are then being empowered to can be able to have access or go through that so that they can be able to teach. And I'll tell you why I'm talking about this in terms of skills. It's because at the moment we have a biggest challenge in the country, which will almost make it point number 6. The arts in education is a challenge. Yeah. We do not have a curriculum in the arts. And at the moment it's being introduced in various schools as programs. Now the key question becomes, who teaches? Are you taking the people in the townships who have been practitioners to come and teach? Or are you going to train the teachers in arts to be able to teach the arts in schools? Because we have to call for introduction of arts curriculum in our schools, because we know the benefits that comes with arts in education. I'll pause it there for now. Thank you.
Number 2. Sure. The mic is coming.
Sanibonani. Kunjani? Thank you very much. Mina igama lami mina ngumandla Mqongwane. I think I've worked with a lot of people obviously here. I run a business called Black Brain Pictures. I mean, I've been running my business, I guess, for 19 years now. So it's been a very long time. Obviously started when I was 19. So I want to pretty much focus on the economic side of the business, because that's pretty much everything. I think that's the main reason we're here. It's just a little bit sad that I don't see the guys that we are in the forefront of the business with. Like obviously your Berry Onions, your Fergusons, your guys that have obviously come up over the years. But when I started, I was pretty much one of the only black companies that is doing this. I've probably people that have gone through my books, probably about 15,000 people. Obviously to date, I employ about over 1,000 people every single year that go through BlackBerry. You understand? And looking at the economic side, SABC is one of the most important players for us. And SABC is in trouble, which means a lot of people are in trouble. A lot of people in our sector are in trouble. So, and the biggest revenue generator for SABC is SABC sales. I don't know if everyone is familiar with SABC sales. Those are the guys that sell advertising to advertisers that bring their money to SABC so that people can look at our programs. And that's the funder that's funding the programs. And right now, since they started with obviously Mzansi Magic, can you imagine as KFC, if I'm spending 300 million a year, I took half of that and I'm taking it to NSFAS. That's a lot of money that's leaving the public broadcaster. You see, this is just one brand. So I thought, from the SABC side, why don't we outsource SABC sales, since it's the 80% revenue generated? If you have to outsource that to people that are motivated, to people that sell airtime, to people that know exactly what's happening, that's going to be 80% of the revenue, which means there's going to be more and more projects getting commissioned. Because right now, we don't even know that some of our shows are coming back. We are owed a lot of money from SABC. You get what I'm saying? So obviously, I thought, if we could outsource that sector, give it to people that understand that world, people that are media buyers, people that understand how to sell advertising, we could get a lot more money for productions to basically happen. And then obviously, looking at the public broadcasters, IP is one of the biggest things. IP, no one can sell your project better than you. Because after you create it, you give it to a public broadcaster, you give it to Mzansi Magic, they say, thank you very much, you've created it, thank you, leave. And then you sit there. That type of production you can take and sell to Angola, you can take and sell to other broadcasters, you can take and sell to advertisers. But right now, as the contract states, we can't do anything around that. So what happens is you create a great product like Gizo Izo and it stays in the archives forever. You understand? You can't do anything. Right now I'm fighting obviously with another broadcaster. You know, I created content, the music was great, I created a CD, now I'm going to create a musical around that, you know, which is obviously locked down. But at the end of the day, if they don't allow me to do that, where do I live? How do I live? Because I've got every actor calling me on a daily basis saying, Mata, Ganyo. That's the reality right now. And these are high-list actors. And obviously, I mean, you know, I'm in the forefront of that because I experience these individuals on a daily basis. These are my friends, these are my family, and I need to do that. I need to make sure I come up with a plan, because if I don't, they're not going to do that. They are at the mass. IP is the biggest thing. 50% at least needs to belong to the creator, because these are our ancestral stories. You know, it doesn't count. Creative is something very potent, very important. I think the mic is. Can you guys still hear me? The mic. I think the mic.
Yeah,
is
we can
right.
hear you.
Oh, you can hear me?
Yeah.
So obviously, I think IP is something that we must really, really look at. And then also as well, for the musicians, I've dabbled in music. You know, I'm a creative. I've dabbled in music. I understand the musicians' fight. For musicians, you can only have top 6, 7. After that, the rest, there's nothing happening for them. If you want the top hip-hop, you either get AKA, or you get Casper, or you get Ricky Rick. The rest, it's a problem. It's done. You understand? So obviously those people are passionate about music, and they create content all the time. And you know how they get us? They say, okay, let's create library music, and put it in the TV shows, and put it in the ads, and put it in all of that stuff. You must understand, I mean, you know, I've had the privilege of directing ads and buying music, and always I go for local music. I've given artists over 2 million rand just for their song. A song they recorded 5, 8 years ago. You understand? So in that way, we can look at the archives of the squatter camps. We can look at the archives of you know what I'm saying, of people who've done music back in the day, and we can now research and go deeper as creatives and say, hey son, I've got a mandate. If it goes on a public broadcaster, if it's an advert, it has to have local music. And it has to be from an artist, not a library. Because a library, what happens is, the guys that create the libraries, and I know it's none of our black guys that create the library. The guys that create the library, it's an international library, and obviously all those guys are getting a lot more money from us using that content. And yet we're selling to mass black, the main market, as they put it. So that's why, for me, that would be a big thing as well. And then in terms of TV shows, this is my space that affects me the most. So what happens is, they'll keep black companies very quiet with 13 episodes. So they'll say, no, Manda, here's lockdown, 13 episodes. But then you look at the telenovelas. That's where the business is. That's the 100 million and above. And that's reserved for obviously white companies. Or companies that they created that you think is black but they are white.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They'll never say, no, Manda, here's a telenovela. You were already creating a hit that is locked down. You understand? And what's 13 episodes? That's 1 month running cost. You understand? That's 1 month running cost. So obviously, my thing is, if they want to create a telenovela, they must basically co-produce with a black production company. Because what we don't want them to do is, we don't want them to then go, okay, cool, here, let's give it to a black production company, and then they set us up for failure, and then after that they go, it's already failed. No, we want a co-production. Teach. You understand? So it needs to be a co-production from a white company to a black company, and there needs to be a scorecard, there needs to be reports, there needs to be all sorts of things so that we understand the learning and the training. So that when they take over after 3 seasons of that, then we know they can run it. Because at the end of the day, you're as good as your show. If your show is not a hit, you're out. And rightfully so, because we are creators, we need to make hits. So we need training in terms of that sector, in how to create hits when it comes to TV shows. Because sometimes you get given an opportunity and you create a flop. And then you are out, permanently. So they need to co-produce, we need co-production of telenovelas, because that's where the core business is, that's where everybody gets employed. That's where all the actors, that's where the machine runs. All right? And then also another big thing that I wanted to speak about is when you get your LFEF, the DTIs and all of that, the guys that are commissioning movies and all sorts of things, when you look at the movies that are out there every single year, Afrikaans market, wow, what a fucking success. Yeah. I mean, sorry for my language. Afrikaans movies, what a success, you know what I'm saying? What a success. White movies that are coming out of South Africa, what a success, you understand? And every single year you know you're going to come out with all of that, you know what I'm saying? There's no black stories. Yeah. And then the biggest thing, last time they questioned me, they said, yeah, Manja, why do you always speak about that? Because black people don't want to fill in the forms. Black people don't want to go on the internet and type and fill in everything. When did you teach those black people? You understand? Because at the end of the day, we don't get taught to basically which site needs to go out there. White people have had that all the time. I mean, they grew up around computers. They grew up, that's why they're getting all the projects. That's why even the brother said, you know, they come up with the best proposals and they get in there and they use obviously the token black guy and they go, here, he's the one that's going to run it. You understand? But they fill in the forms. So now what I suggest is let's come up with a conglomerate that can fill in all the forms for us. So that the black guys go through the system and then they can get funding and all sorts of things. It's not like, listen, you don't have SARS. I mean, I've ran a business for 19 years and I still owe SARS. Finance is not child's play. That is huge. There's still discrepancies, you understand? So obviously, I don't even qualify. That's why I haven't made a big picture. Do you get what I'm saying? Because those forms are hectic. You need to have rocket scientists, whatever, to fill in those forms. And honestly, for our people, I know for a fact here, there's not a lot of people that have received money to basically make those big movies. Yeah. I mean, right now, you've got a big international movie that's coming here. They're spending about 300 million. That's news you'll never even hear around here. 300 million for a picture. But it's not our money, it's white people's money. But our stories in our land. All right? So that's what I obviously fight for. We need a lot of training around filling in forms and making sure that we can claim what's rightfully ours. Because all that money is ours and we don't get invited, we don't fill in those forms, we don't have training around that. We need monthly training that goes out to the people to teach them how to fill in forms, to teach them how to get into pitches. Because at the end of the day, if English is not your mother tongue, you won't get a show on Zanzi Magic because you cannot present it. And yet, the only thing that sells is the idea. Nothing more, nothing less. We're in a creative space. I've created shows from domestic workers. It was a domestic worker who came to me and said, Mandang, the story as. She would have never gotten that pitch if obviously I wasn't around. Only because I said, okay, Mama, you understand? So, if the most important thing is the creative, and we've got so much creative in the townships, are those creative ever going to get any opportunities to create content? Because that's where the richness of the story is at. Because what happens is you're getting guys who come up from urban schools and all sorts of things and they create these shows and you can tell what it's nice, but in South Africa we don't relate. We will never live like that. And yet the raw stories, those guys cannot write the ideas, they cannot fill in the forms and they cannot fill in the forms and all of that stuff. So that's the heavy training that needs to happen within the townships. So yeah, thank you very much. I think the brother is covered. Thank you.
Thank you, Manja. It's interesting that you say that there's funding in this country, but it's so inaccessible that you need training to get the funding.
Yeah.
Next one, next suggestion.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Kupeka. I'm here representing ICAPSA, Incredible Arts Practitioners of South Africa. What is Carnival? Maybe some of you don't know. Carnival is this thing in Brazil where they walk in streets and you see these big things and ladies or men dancing on the street. It's a quite good industry in Brazil because they make a living out of it. But come to South Africa, the industry has been there for about, I think, 15 years. We've been trying our best to show that art is not about only music, it's not about acting, it's not about drawing, but Carnival can play a role with those big
sculptures, because that thing comes from ancient days where people used to mock these white leaders who used to brutally our people. They used to mock them through that thing. So it was a carnival show, they paraded on the street. So we have a challenge here in South Africa, where in Cape Town, that thing is funded because most of it, or most of the people who are driving that thing are whites.
Yeah.
Here in Gauteng and other provinces, it's tough. And the biggest problem, when the arts department release this money, they give it to companies that don't even understand what is carnival. These tenders are actually eating us apart, because these tenders, especially in the arts industry, they are a proxy to the ANC. We got that opportunity because we were in the ANC. So now, because we are in the EFF, they told us that you're not going to hire you. And it's been tough. So we've been trying to do it in our own, doing it our own shows, spending our money, that we're trying to promote this kind of. So my belief is to say, if the art department could change, because most of the people who are working in the art department are not artists. They come from professional accounting, professional lawyer, professional what, and they are co-opted to work for the artist. Do you think they think for us?
No.
They don't think for us. They think their own salary and what is going to do month end. And who's suffering is the artist. So now my proposal to the EFF is to say, teach us, if you take over power, teach us to do accounting, to be lawyers, so that we become part and understand laws and understand policies, because we can do it if we can get teaching. Some of us, they are lawyers, they are accountants. So that's what we must do. And coming or weekend, it should be like every other subject. Because when we speak about free decolonized, education, art will play the most role in that. Because this is a complex industry. It's too broad, it's too huge, you know, so it will absorb. Because statistically, if you look at the percentage of artists around the world, it's 60%. It's 60%. We are talking about various music, drawing, beadworking, fashion, shoemaking. We're talking about this broad, complex industry. So it's about 60%. And out of the 60%, it's only 20 who are making it. The rest is poverty. It's poverty for us. That's why we end up running to Pick and Pay, running to be drivers, running to be cleaners, you know, because there is no one who can save us. So I think if we go, if the next year we change the political party, that's really, we should make sure that the art industry gets the most biggest budget, because most of the people who are suffering are merely artists. And we need to talk to Malus, or I'm sorry to maybe I'm pronouncing it wrong, Malus, the ones that are creating these certificates for everyone. We need to talk to that Malus so that they could absorb artists and cluster them according to schools. Maybe we say in Handbag we are dealing with musicians, and then that side we are dealing with creative, like visual drawings and what, and in so that when we have those people, they can move around, you know, teaching our children, you know, to do this art. Because one thing that I've realized in this industry, it's merely controlled by white people. Our black brothers and sisters, to say it, they're just upfronting them. You know, you go to Cape Town, you check all their things, it's white people. All the companies that get funding, let's challenge maybe EFF just to say let them go and look. All companies that get funding are mostly white. are mostly white. So this is the things that we need to do. Let's change the industry. Let's change the Department of Education, of Arts and Culture, from national to provincial. I agree with my brother. In the local, we don't have anything. Why I say that? I go to IDP meetings. I raise my hand from 20, I don't know, and talk about art. Everyone will say, we are serious here. What about housing? What about streets? You are coming here and telling us about art. You know, that's how our people, they don't understand art. So for us to make sure the art is protected, let's go back to the basics, get the little ones in the crash and everything, so that when they grow up, they understand art. They will definitely buy a piece for $1 million because they understand it. Right now, we can't sell because the people, they don't understand. Imagine if I say this piece is 1,000. That's it all. So we gotta work on that.
Just before you know that issue of education and arts in education, it's been in debates since 1996. I think some of you will remember that Mabuza Sake show, where these things have been discussed since 1996. But it's become such an insignificant industry that we're failing just to introduce it into education. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Lady Brown. I'm an artist. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I'm an artist and a musician. I released my album last year, towards the end of the year, as an independent artist.
Sure.
And the struggle is real. Ngotsotsi abantu abasebenzeli SABC. Ngotsotsi compilers. Ngotsotsi nabantu baka-government bedibene bonke. The way artists that are looked down at, it is so bad. And it is so sad that the SABC and government are letting those people continue doing it. Unini kuthethwa ngeBayola ndingeka recording album ndibukela uBhududlingo nabanye abantu kuthethwa ngeBayola, but still today nothing has been done. It is happening. I-compilers zinikwa imali for them to play umculo wabantu. You hear an artist idlala ku radio station 5 times a day. What are you saying as a manager yeso station? I've never seen her being given money. Why ungabuzi umuntu othela udlala imini yonke 7 days a week abanye abantu bengadlali? So my suggestion is that ku-EFF, please sicela nitry nifumane abantu aba-independent to sit in those listening sessions. Because at SABC we attend to submit to music listening sessions every Thursday. Then we will come back to you after 2 weeks. You will come back after 2 weeks until Pelunyada ingoma yakho idlala, but you hear one song playing all over. And another thing, the corruption yenzeka Pioneer radio station yenze sane compilers ne producers ne presenters as arrogant as celebrities. Funeka uyomcenga umuntu for udlala ingoma yakho. Kodwa uzawuva ingoma ezimbi ezidlalwa okokoko. Ingoma ezimbi ezingena-sense. Lo bhuti ukhona ubhuti besithi the music that was played here makes sense. Ingoma ezenza sense that we speak of violence esibonayo, speaking of children neglect esibonayo. Soze uzive uzidlala uzawuva ingoma ezithi hu okokoko awuyazi noma ithini.
That sounds like a song itself.
Awufumane message umntana akho uzawufundisa ngantoni ngaloku mna ndifuna ukhulele mamela uMamiriam Makeba Budrigo, but there's a message that I learned from each song that I hear from the radio. These days you don't hear a message but you hear only the beat. Zizo ke zona zidlalayo okoko. And it is sad because we have adopted this culture in our country. Ufumana izinto with merit. Ufumana izinto just because ndazubanibani ndizalana nobanibani. You do good music, you don't hear it. You are a good actress, we don't see you on TV. We see same faces. Sometimes they pretend good kunama auditions, but they know who have they taken when we are just there to accompany those people. And this is wrong. regulations, regulating bodies. We need those things. As soon as we just because I say, ha, a musician. We're not saying SABC must play crap music as they are now. We are saying at least if Punangoma or Ibona in a potential, play that person because we are not getting hired because as a Ziwa. Who is the event organizer of this Naleti brands of who are we going to pull? But if you come to Zobukela when you are was look very doing. Sibono AK Bandela 50 years, 50 times a day. Not to say this is a public broadcaster. It is ours. Here to song. Entrepreneur goals, marketing, graduate, I have an honors degree in communication.
Yes.
And I'm pushing my what done with his skills? So market, how you can get yourself like I was market. Ufana lendo ihlele mnqonyeni phansi ekwaza izani awuviwa because ugunyelelwe. So sizawuba sizimarket asingena kuyo yonke le ndawo. Sizawubona ngubani sigunyelwe ngaphansi. Because uthethe imali must pay for you to be listened to. Sicela bethuna nizame nisincede sisengxakini.
Thank you. Sure.
I'm in the advertising industry. We make ads. The ads that Mandla was talking about, I've worked with Mandla a couple of times. I've been in the industry for 10 years. It's actually heartbreaking to sit in a room filled with such passionate and creative people. I'm very passionate about creative. I have never wanted to be in corporate because I feel I like to express myself. I hate being put in a box. And that's what creativity does. It lets you be. It lets you freely express what you want. And I believe that if we do not take care of our creative people, we will never as a country have a mark globally. Because it is how we express ourselves as creative people that will put us on a global mark and tell the world who we are. So I work in advertising and it is very heartbreaking, and I've got ex-colleagues here that know that I was called Mama Winnie Mandela. I'm the real I've been called Julius Malema actually. I was fired at one agency because I had Malema tendencies, because crap is crap and I'm not going to stand for crap. And we are actually re batla go bereka le lona, re batla go berekisana le rona, re batla go thusana. Bangani ke o tla go bolela, we've worked a lot mo DSTV and then, but you know how bereka le makgowa they are so unified bana ba go gae a ke batlo le bolela maaka ne, that it's so easy for them ba sa bui ba bua ka matlho fela gore ba go kwalle ko ntle. And when you mo meeting, how na say o ka bua o ka nna botlhale wa bona o sufetse o re o na le honors in. It does not matter in that boardroom. It does not matter whether your actual what you bring to the table is actually a fact and will change people's lives. That does not matter. What matters is na le mabatho ha re ka ja 5 million e really to palesa ha krei next. And it is very sad because we have a lot of black kids that actually aspire to be everyone who is in this room, that actually phone us and say, oh, I want to come and intern, and my heart breaks for them because I'm like, yo, you don't want to burst that bubble because damn, there's nothing for you. It's so hard for me to put my child to school and pay my bond because I don't even know if the white man sitting there will actually allow me to keep my job because I can't keep my mouth shut, you know? And EFF, to be a creative person where all we want to do is really tell stories. Yeah. All we really want to do is to be heard. All we want to do is to express, because I believe creative people are are the feelings or the expresses of what the nation is feeling or thinking. And if we contain that's why we will end up with a very depressed society. That's why we will end up with a society under influence that it drugs in the bourgeois. You know what I mean? And end up to pop a bottle as opposed to just, you know, I enjoy life somehow. Let me go learn how to paint, or let me go to Mpumalanga, God's window. You know what I mean? Because the stress that we live with day in and day out. Also, she was my traffic lady, and I would fight. I was not allowed to speak to my clients directly because I get you know, to a point where how okay, the goalposts keep moving. They keep moving for you, especially as a black female in our industry. It is so sad because there is nothing that you will do enough. And by the time Bahu promote, they will still put another white person as a babysitter on top of you. So, and what bothers me the most is that how the hell are you expecting a white person to babysit me when I'm trying to tell stories? That's a mess. Black people are the mess of this country. What is a white person going? How is a white person going to tell struggle some tomundu? We think when I ka pula phakela we are American ka 5 o'clock. So and then batho ga 7 and go ya American ga o dula mo for we subereka mo Princeton 10 minutes drive. Motho a modimo ene o tswa Frenegeng kwa o tla mo Sentin o tlo koropa go bana ba. My job is to allow Joel, who's my creative director, to write a story about that person. And if I don't help Joel to sell that story, then we are not doing justice to all of you sitting here. And it all starts with the fact that the person that is controlling the money in the boardrooms will not even allow us to breathe. We can't, I have no say. It's very sad. And triple A varsity college because they think it's a glamorous life. TV and they think because we've created a perception of when we are actually distressed, that's why this is why creative people are drug addicts, and that's why they pop in bottles. Because number one, we don't even get paid overtime. Overtime, and does not work like that. I've got deadlines. Media sales. If material is due to SABC, go generation by 8 o'clock, rest assured it needs to be logged. Go 8 and Mandla needs to have completed it. And which if it means Hararoban and Mandla, that's what it is. Hararoban. Do you think no one cares? No one cares. My mental, and if you don't have a healthy mental state, how are you as a creative able to even be creative? If you are always on pilot mode, if you are always working on pilot mode where no one actually cares about your well-being, it is a very, very, very sad thing. Because but the core thing is that the people that actually own the money will not even allow us as a people to express ourselves healthily. Because I don't know what it is so much about us expressing ourselves that threatens them to be okay with who they are and allowing us to be who we are. It's a problem. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so I'm in the next batch, ne? Okay, so the next batch, the batches are growing now. So I think let's do this. Let's we'll go row by row, right? So we'll do this row because I see there are no people there, and then we'll come to this row and then come to this row. Is that fine? Okay, let's do that. We'll start on that road. But before we do that, President, I feel like we've put together some of the best brains in the industry. I think the input that we're getting here is extremely valuable. Let's talk about women in the industry. Can we talk about women in the industry? Let's start. This is why we're here, because it's an extremely important element of what we're doing here. That side, there were two people there at the back there. Yeah, we'll start with you, number one. No, this row. So we'll start with you, leadership at the back. Yeah. Hey, wait. Did you have your hand up, or did I mistake your hand? Yeah.
Hey, Tobe.
Sure.
I'm an actor and a creative. I just want to touch on one though. I come from a community theatre background, and that's the one that I have more interest in. And what I want to speak about is things that comes with frustrations that we have as artists. And I'm proposing that we need to deal with the education structure in the country when it comes to education and arts. And also we need to deal with this that we are trying to empower artists with. What concerns me the most is when you have institutions that are trying to groom artists that must strive to be employable. If you want to be employable in the industry as an artist, it comes with frustrations because it's a very small industry. We should start driving the narrative of encouraging people to want to tell stories. And in us trying to encourage people to tell stories, what we need to encourage more is unity amongst ourselves as artists. Take a show. Community theatre, what it does is that it encourages group work. If you are in a community theatre production, you will be doing costume, you'll be doing singing, you'll be doing stage management, you'll be doing your own directing, you'll be doing everything all at once, right? As a collective. But we lose that along the way. When you go through a formal structure adversity, you are told to specialize in one, right? If you're an actor, you'll do acting. If you're a stage manager, you'll do stage managing. If you are lighting, you'll just do it, whatever the case it is. What that does is that it creates isolation in the industry. What we need to start doing to actually recognize our own powers is to say, as an actor, recognize the makeup, recognize the costume, recognize the stage manager, recognize the writer, recognize the director. And now, it becomes more easy for people to create productions. And the funding model that should be coming from government, it should be funding a group of people, not individuals. Because that's where the problem is. That's where arrogance comes from. That's why sometimes we'll have arrogant producers, we'll have arrogant directors, we'll have arrogant this and that. It's because the funding model goes to one individual and not to a group of people. So that should be encouraged, I think. And the other thing is, what I am asking for is that let's communicate more opportunities within the industry. Let's not sell mainstream theatre as the only way to go. Let's not sell just 2 channels as the only way to go. Let's drive the message of saying, if you want to be an artist, there's industrial theatre, for example. You understand? There's corporate theatre, for example. You can still make money from poor theatre, for example. That's what we need to communicate. Because artists, they go and study, and the only opportunity they're exposed to is that of dreaming to be in the mainstream theater or being on screen. That is a problem. We need to expose as many opportunities that are available there. To say as an actor, you don't only have to strive for that, but you can literally just depend on being a voiceover artist. You can just depend on just being specialized in radio drama. You can choose to just deal with the underground market. You know, if you're doing radio, you can't just strive to be on Metro, you can't strive being on your commercial radio stations. There is retail radio. Do you understand? So that's what we should channel our artists to start thinking like. And the only way for that to happen is if you become more involved in these institutions that develop artists. And you should also be more involved on the ground on dealing with artists. Let's not create a generation of people that want to be in the mainstream. We wouldn't be having these frustrations of our songs be played on radio. We wouldn't be frustrated over open up the industry. We wouldn't have those frustrations because we exposing our artists to as many opportunities that are there and telling them what is available in the market and supporting that. Let's do less support on big productions and do more support on the upcoming markets.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Also, if we do that leadership, we then begin to decentralize industries. We can then support industries in rural areas and everywhere else. Thank you. Next one.
Okay, Dumelang. My name is Potero Pagwao. I'm from agriculture industry. It's weird. My role, I'm
agriculture.
Yeah, agriculture.
Culture.
Can I spell it for you? Okay. What happened is, I'm a final year PhD student in agriculture, and I'm passionate about training and education in agriculture.
Sure.
What happened is, promotion and support. Yeah, agricultural TV shows. Why can't, as a creative and artist or whatever, I agree with somebody called. So push the animation. This is where the milk comes from. Through you guys. I think it was Senyamo. Thank you.
Okay, so I think we're done with this side. No, you're raising a very important point. We are taking land here in the next couple of years. And when we take land, we're going to need to learn about agriculture and milk and all of those things. So thank you very much. You want to speak? That will be the last hand this side. And then I'll move to the side.
My name is Kamisile Nakama. I'm a lawyer by profession, but I'm also a consumer of the arts and culture. My problem with the arts and culture space is the mandate that the SABC has. Team South Africa is a company, and the SABC is actually supposed to be communicating the message that Team South Africa is trying to get across to the country. However, the SABC, since '94, they're still communicating a pre-'94 message. What about the message that we're trying to push now? The message of liberation. What is the SABC doing as the communicator for Team South Africa? We haven't changed the narrative. The narrative is still the same, the one of oppression. And we have kids here. My kids are unfortunately here sleeping with me. Our kids program, watching South African kiddies programs because they're not well researched. Can we also look into that? The research space. Research entertainment. Entertainment is not, it's actually an intellectual exercise. And we actually tend to lose that entertainment is an intellectual exercise and it needs to be researched. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now now move to this side. We'll take number 1 at the back there, number 2, number 3, number 4 with the red cap, number 5. Is that Ayana? Oh, yes. Oh, welcome. I didn't see you. Number 5, Ayanda. Number 3, number 6. Number 7 with the glasses. Number 8 with the white cap. Yeah. Number 9 next to him. Number 10 with the cap. With the hat, not the cap, yes. Number 11, yourself. Number 12. Number 13 and number 14. We're moving quickly now. Don't repeat and be shocked.
Sanibona. Igama ngumhlowa kaGumede. I was not actually supposed to be here. I'm here because my wife was invited by CIC Julius. So Sunday is a family time, so I'm here. So I'm not gonna pass on an opportunity to address leadership, especially since CIC is here, because formerly I was with Mabala Noise, I was head of communications and marketing. We all know what he did to us. The payola issue.
Well, welcome.
I've got my own rocket company. I want to start about that. We've got the Sony's, the Universal, the major record labels that are dominating in this country. The likes of Abu Babu Robi Malinga passed on and whatnot, but their music doesn't belong to them or their family. The Universal is making money off that content. And mind you, there's no marketing budget involved, it's passed, but they generate money every day because the major record labels are the ones who are dominating because they've got the budget. My wife is signed to Warner Music in Hyde Park. On Tuesday, I'm going to sign my other artists to Sony Music because I'm not choice. It's the guys who've got the budget. I don't know how we can get assistance in terms of making sure the heritage here to stays here because the payola issue has been touched on. It's a serious thing. I would like to emphasize on it. The payola thing, it's a serious issue because music, akusayi ngokuthi ubesho isinality brown, akusayi ngokuthi ingoma imnandi or not. But money talks, SABC and everywhere actually, money talks. The third issue and the last one I want to raise, guys. Let not this be. I want to call leadership EFF to task. We've had these sittings, ANC, provincial and national. We've had them and they've proved to be futile because we are not organized. The only way this can work in terms of helping us with creative arts, I want to call the leadership to task. You guys don't have the women's league like the other parties. You don't have the youth league because you guys are the youth. Something. Can we, in future, have something like a league of its own, EFF Creative League? Because there's a woman who regular. Let not this be a one-night stand. With your squeeze, your sense, and the share. You guys must commit. Okay, guys, every day at EFF, we've got people or structures that will wake up and attend to the needs of the creative. I say DJ just to look pretty and whatnot, it depends on issues. We need commitment from parties like you guys. Create a league of the creatives. The first one in this country is with EFF, there's Creatives League that deals with issues because we struggle every day. Until you call us once, say, what deserve, who's I know you deserve. It's a problem, we're struggling the whole year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
My name is Tandy, and very pleased to be here. I also wasn't going to come because Sunday is a rest day, but I'm very glad I did come. I think one of the main things for me is that I'm an independent musician, and the entirety of my career I have actually built it using the internet, which I think is an amazing opportunity for us if we are able to tap into its benefits for us personally. And for me, there's just two things that I see as obstacles for independent artists who are using the internet a lot. First of all, It's been spoken about in Parliament, but data needs to really be addressed, because I think where issues like the SABC come in, people consuming media on their phones is a huge opportunity for us to reach people without having to be allowed onto the SABC platforms and spaces. So I think that's really a place that makes an obstruction for us. I also think the internet is amazing because it gives us access to outside of the borders. So we don't, there's a lot of politics in this country in the way funding is distributed, and it's going to take a long time to overcome that. But where we have the opportunity of the internet, it's very cool for us to be able to use that to access different markets. And I think one of the things that have come into the news recently is the copyright bill. The copyright bill, one of the clauses that were introduced is the fair use bill, which is actually now coming into the creators' IP and giving users of our intellectual property the ability to sort of make it vague as to who can use the copyright and all those things. And I think that's very dangerous, because that is a place where we are creating and no one is holding us back. But now people are going to be scared to create things because we're not sure if when we use it, someone's going to say, we need this for the greater good. And I think if you could somehow address that fair use clause that is very broadly drafted, and somehow make a point of us knowing beforehand what fair use actually implies, so that we are not open to exploitation in it.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Sanbanan, I'm an arts activist. I actually think I created this war. I became an arts activist through my woman, as you all know. You touched my family, and then it's something else. So I've since became an arts activist, so kind of been involved in a whole lot of struggles. Now my artists, all from Bomba Blue Fontaine, with those sieves, I've been through all them. I would like to highlight just a few things, especially that I think the EFF could get involved in. ISIFSA, I know it's been spoken about, but then I believe it's very, very important. And seeing that the leadership previously has been able to hold a whole lot of structures to account, I understand that the ISIFSA reports at the South African Parliament. So the president of ISIFSA must account when he comes to the Parliament what's been happening with ISIFSA. I believe the EFF has got members of Parliament in South African Parliament, so it will be much easier to make them account. And then those ones in the arts, because I've once attended an arts budget speech somewhere at the MEC's office, and I was surprised with most of the money goes to our statues and stuff like that. So, you know, and these monies are shared in Parliament. So let them study there, Parliament, with regards to how this money is going to be distributed and spent. And then there's this other thing, I think they call it the Bible, or Yama artist, it's called the white paper. It has never been finalized. I think recently we were called to go Usiba Awards. It was Usiba and Usiba conference, and they tried to make us sign that document right there and there. And something like over 1,000 pages. So I'm an artist, we all refused to sign that paper to put it into law. I think the leadership could perhaps maybe suggest some expertise, people who understand all these papers, they must go through there so that when this white paper is being finalized, at least it's as inclusive as possible of all, especially my artists, they are in our local areas. And then with education, there is money already in the arts that's supposed to be. I think you know Sector Education Training Authority, the SETA structures. We have CAT SETA. What are they doing with their money? Because those are the ones that are supposed to be developing our skills down there everywhere with regards to our issues with arts and culture. So I'm thinking that's how the commitment that the organization as the EFF could make to our artists. But you know what? We'll find out what's happening in Parliament with regards to ISIFSA, and then we'll also tell our MPLs, Guguma provincial legislatures to question our budget, do all these things, because these people, they report back. I mean, there's our audits and everything. Hold them accountable there, because then once you clean young get the core, the leadership, especially Guguma office, my departmental offices, then you will be able to get people who will be able to distribute all these funds to our artists, because money is there for our artists. But the Pelele office, it never leaves the office. When it leaves the office, in a channel that brings it right back there into the office. Thank you.
Sure. So, leadership, can I ask you to speak to me afterwards when you're done? The thing that they did there with the white paper is not correct. And we've raised that issue because they're supposed to get consultation at provincial level for NCOP. They're supposed to get consultation, and you signing there, they are basically saying that they've consulted and they have not.
Yeah,
Okay, so we'll speak later about that.
Okay.
Sure.
Dumelang baetapele, ke David Thomas, artist manager and a business consultant. Now I rata bua ka this thing first, hearing from the other creatives here about, imagine South Africa where we have 9 provincial museums, every province in a museum and theatre precinct, well equipped, where our stories will be told about our heroes, where movies will be showed for our people, where our plays will be played there, because I don't have a lot of creatives. I don't think they will run out of jobs or out of, and to tell our stories. Good writers, we have good producers, but they don't have a space where they can express themselves. But having those provincial museums, theatres, precinct, places where we'll have our stories to be shown, I think it will help all of us to have a place where creators, producers, actors, and dancers will express themselves and create jobs for themselves. Arts and Culture Department, we can have at least your copyright lawyers or, like legal assistant, and artists can just go to a certain arts and culture offices, get a lawyer there, ask for explanation, get explanation, free of charge. I think artists, even actors, it can help them. The other thing is about publishing. I think publishing is the most important thing in the music industry. And our artists, they don't own that, they don't know what is publishing, That's why our artists die poor, because of if our artists can own, you know, at least 50% of their publishing, they will never go hungry. Their children will live out of publishing. Publishing, it is the most important business in the industry. So I think such things, having every arts and culture department to have someone who will assist our creative people with these ideas, but get these advices. I think our artists, they will never go hungry, because of most artists here, you have thousands, if not millions, sitting somewhere there that you don't know that you have money, you know. And I think something has to be done, because our artists, we are the ones who are contributing a lot in the economy. Sure. But we don't have the right channels, the right direction. So in that way, leadership, I would like to support the speaker who said, for it mustn't be our last meeting. I think as an EFF, we need to create, I don't know, a forum or whatever. We can meet at least quarterly, or so that we can continue with this discussion to help and shape the policies.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Sanibonani. Igama langu Ayanda wakaBoratho, ngibelethi so ngiphosho ukuthi okunye bese addressiwe now. Leadership, into engicela nje ukuyisho kunina ukuthi what we need to do is to create a sustainable industry which will in turn create security through regulation. Then we can start creating maybe some kind of trust in the system, and then we can maybe even begin to trust one another before schooling as a unit. I concur most of the things that people are saying here, but in the unit is very important because abelungu abasebenzisa divide and rule. Divide and rule in the industry. We can't come together as artists, but at the core of this is the issue of security. Because even as we sit here and we talk about these issues, umuthi wena uneplan yokusiza. Results, ama-artists ayahluleka ukuthi come together and unify towards one vision, which by the way we don't have. The other thing is that the industry, Yaga Arts, is not an industry, it's a world of its own. We have to start looking at this industry as a world of its own, a world with its own rules, with its own ways of doing things. That is why we problem ukufundisa abantwana abama creatives. I have creative children. It is a problem even from the school system because the world doesn't understand us. How are they going to understand us now? They don't understand ezaminga because zama creatives abakwazi ukuyifundisa. So lento ecosystem iqala from when siyingane fanele sikhule asikwazi ukuyitheklisha la kuphela. We have to start with it from the beginning. Siqala kanjani ukufundisa izingane ezama creatives. Sikhule nayo lento yokuba ama creatives. Right? And then two things that I want to talk about in the industry. I'll be very brief. I'm no longer interested in tackling the big beasts like the Mnets and the SABCs. White monopoly works for them, corruption works for them. I'm not interested. What I'm interested in is parallel structures that we are going to own. Our own parallel structures. How we created the Hollywoods of this world, the Bollywoods of this world. Those are the people we should be studying and saying, how did they come to be these big forces in the world that everybody wants to partner with? Because Bollywood, non-Hollywood depends on their own. They don't depend on white people. They depend on their own. They don't depend on the system. They depend. Support. So I'm interested in that from you guys to say, can we start having conversations about parallel structures that are ours that we own? Because the issue here is not the talent. The issue here is not the skill. We have enough black DOPs, black directors who can do the work. We have enough black talent in this country. The issue is not that. The issue here is the distribution channels that we do not own. Because sizohamba, see access funding, for instance, uyenze feeling yakho. But inkinga, ngizothatha ngiyifake because it's the chemical and you dictating to me the terms. In Baby Mama is not a film that failed. When it was doing a Mall of Africa, they were being sold out every other weekend. On the fourth weekend, they pulled it out when it was doing well. Tell me why. Tell me why. So my issue is, we need to start owning ama distribution structures, because sizohlala nale material. We'll make these films, we'll make these dramas, but we'll sit with them. Because the Mnet and the SABCs are going to dictate to us what should happen with them. So yeah, all in all, the issue of ownership is important, because then it goes to, for me, a very important thing that we can't ignore, which is the narrative. The narrative in these things that we say, these stories that we say we are telling. Mubeki TV manje, let's be honest. Now, if you want to challenge or control how society behaves, or you want to influence how society behaves, you influence prime time television. Mina ngikwisoapie egcwele ukuthakatha, kodwa angizwani nokuthakatha. But akuna choice. We understand? Isibaya kusona sami. Yes sir. We understand? So we need to get to a place where we own the distribution channel, so that we can own our stories, so that we can own the narrative. Because this narrative is very important. We can't even drive our own language. We can't even drive our own language in these platforms, because those distribution channels are not ours. Ngiyabonga.
Parallel structures. Parallel structures. Thank you very much.
Molweni, igama nguVathison Ndaga, with an R and an N at the beginning. I'm an actor. I just want to quickly point something out. I think what was said about future generations. What we are discussing here, it's not going to happen overnight. The ones before us, and we are still going through the things that they went through. So I think now, Tina, we have stronger voices, we have platforms in which to address the issues, so that the future generations, they have at least a chance. Contracts. E-contracts, I think the contracts we have, and we have things like social media now. And where I'm going to with this point, we have things as Lalabu YouTube. We are not paid for that. So our contracts do not address, and when you raise those things, but you are having the content out there, it's got my face, there's got to be something, we contract that addresses these things. So I don't know if we can speak to you guys, that's something that needs to be done, because the contracts that are there are really, really old. And when we're talking about social media, Sinabantu ngoku, I'm going to just quickly go briefly because ngiyabona sekulate, so but you nizawundibam endleleni. Social media, whilst we're there, actors siqashwa ngobu social media now. Ndimdala ndingaka. Social media ifike sendikhona. What must I do now? Show my cellulite with Instagram so I can have followers. Izoti show. I mean, a couple of months ago, I was fighting on a show about that. No, but she's got a following, but can she act? Because we are not speaking, we are not doing the work for the audience. That's stupid. Audience now has a voice. See, I talk over social media about we show a Pambaneo and whatever, and it's because of these things. We forms Abantu, they are asked now, are you on social media? Eating social media, following you. Does social media give you talent? So these are the things we need to look at. Sitata ngemali, I mean, a way of growing industry, and so many great things have been brought up. What are we doing with SAFTAs? What are SAFTAs there for in an industry that's non-existent? Masiziyeke ne SAFTAs, because when you go for an award, you think uzofumana icheck. The one narrative that's consistent in South Africa is that artists are poor. We are making award to do what? Because then when they get that award, again, for the next 5 years. Because because we award. So why do we have these awards? I think we need to find a way, before we say let's celebrate the work that we are doing, so that when you go up there, kuthiwa nansi checkanyana, ukwazi uyothenga into zeChristmas, dear God. Uba ningabona ifridge yam right now, masibetheni imali. Finally, this is now to the powers as we industry, to executive producers. Someone is saying it's the white people that are dividing us. They are happy to divide us. And then leave the other crap. Baza was born and Bama Batini born. Utwa Gufika estate in Gemotos Akwazi is 100 million. Uzoti Moto yami 100 million. Nibonil. So Fneka Gokunati Siambe Stakataka. Singa my guess, but you boss, Gelo Clashun Batali 800 rand a week. Can that mentality, guys, I mean executive producers, they basenza makobok. We make money for them, akukho appreciation. At least, kutwe, nazi email, guys, you've done well. Bas jonga nje, kutwa, nimiyeke ke lo sisibhanqa esihluphayo. Uyathanda inkathazo simply because you are raising serious concerns of your working conditions, zabantu, treatment, and just because a creative space, funeka ube happy. I do not understand an artist as abantu and be all funny. How do you become creative in that space? We need to be happy. Sibon, but we are being appreciated. Thank you.
Leadership, can I just ask that, I know this is a very passionate discussion for all of us, but can we keep our inputs short and to the point so that our Sundays is not finished for all of us? And we've got a lot of hands to get through, so make it short and to the point. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So I'm recovering from the flu, so I hope you can hear me.
Hey, is Panelist?
Yes.
Hey, okay.
It's me. My name is Panelist Mazamisa. I'm a writer, playwright, and director. I just recently had my play at the Market Theatre for 2 weeks. It took me 7 years to get it on stage. So that just shows you the struggles we go through as creatives. That you create content and by the time you actually have it out, so much has gone by. But anyway, that's not the point I wanted to make. I've got three concerns. On behalf of my friends who are musicians and couldn't make it here, they asked me to see if there's anything that can be done regarding royalties with Samro. Musicians are not receiving their royalties, and this is in fact affecting them quite severely. My second concern is the DTI funding for films. When you are funded, you then are told to bond the film through Hollard, an insurance company. So my issue is, why is it only Hollard? Where are the black bonding insurance companies? Can we look into this particular issue? Because they make a lot of money out of taxpayers' money that they receive from DTI. And what tends to happen is, especially with black productions, when you need cash flow to run, your film, a lot of time they deny you the cash flow funds, even though it's there. And then you talk to white producers, and they're like, no, I got the cash flow, what's the problem? So that's something that needs to be addressed. Then my other concern is, I read in the newspapers that the National Arts Council gave 2 million rand, almost 2 million rand, to the daughter of Saul Kersner, which really doesn't make sense because he's a billionaire, and why should the daughter of a billionaire receive 2 million rand when her father bought her a penthouse in New York for $10 million. So it's a problem. Then I've got some solutions or some ideas as well. In the Netherlands, the parliament, what they do with their national broadcaster is they stipulate to them what kind of content they need to show. So for example, they've told them, last year they told them, we need to see 250 classical music concerts. And then they say, in terms of dramas, series, whatever, we need this percentage of black actors seen on the screen. So they're very specific, because if you want to build something, you need to have specific goals and outcomes that you can measure. So perhaps the Arts Committee in Parliament can start doing those things so that it's not vague and, very elusive. Well, what do you mean by this and that? My other issue is healthcare for artists. Is there a way that we can start looking into having specific insurance for artists? Because we don't get paid regularly. We're usually freelancing, and like with my play, it takes 7 years to get something on stage. What happens when we fall sick? I've got a friend now who's got cancer, he's got a brain tumor. When he's trying to get his royalties from Samro, it's a problem. So the fight it's just too severe. And I was thinking that if we can come up with some kind of healthcare system that can be subsidized by the Department of Arts and Culture, or they can be used as a guarantor, so that when we go to hospitals, when we see doctors as artists, they are also assured that, no, the money will be there, you will be paid. But it's just an idea that really needs to be thought through and considered. Taxation, and yet we are taxed as though we are regular employees. So something about that. And then my last issue is perhaps we can start some kind of registry for artists, where we register, where people, companies, businesses know that these are the artists. These are artists, and we can use that again as some kind of guarantor when we try and get, just move on with our lives and get things done. And that sort of then legitimizes who we are as artists. It gives people confidence that, okay, should anything happen, these people are registered, and we can verify certain things, whether it's for getting a bond, for getting a car, but some system that helps us financially to build our own lives and careers. Thank you.
Dumelang. Lebitso la ka ke Lerole Phakwa. I am a voice artist and a visual artist, a multimedia designer. And what I wanted to bring attention to is something that I feel is not being spoken about nearly enough, which is the fourth industrial revolution and the effect that it's going to have on jobs and the economy at large. I feel like people believe that the creative economy is trying to find a seat at the table, but most countries, most developing countries are very well aware that in the next couple of years, the table is going to be the creative industries, because robotics and artificial intelligence is going to kill away many professions, particularly manual labor. So your cashiers, your farm workers, your builders, those jobs are going away in the next couple of years. Even your knowledge workers, your tellers, your accountants, your lawyers, all those jobs are going away. And I have a bit of a worry that we are, at the moment, And I have a 3-year-old niece, and I worry that we are training all of these children into these jobs that in the next couple of years are going to be extinct. The only jobs that are safe from this blight is going to be the creators, because they are the hardest for machines to learn. So the creative industry must be exalted, and many Western countries are forecasting dramatic increases in growth in these industries, and they're building the needed infrastructure and affecting legislation to make that possible. But what I want to talk about particularly is the attitude that we as a black community have towards the arts and cultures themselves as professions. I feel like they're not seen as a valid way of generating income. They are still seen like, for me, I'm a graphic designer, I'm a multimedia, I still get my friends and my parents saying, "Kids, Popeye." You know, and I mean, this is a really big money stuff, and people know that it's really big money stuff. So some of the solutions that I have is that I feel like through some way of communication, culturally or otherwise, we should revise the representation of arts amongst black people as a valid profession. And also because of the fourth industrial revolution, there's going to be a decentralization of the workspace. Like, normal jobs are going away. Companies are going to get smaller and smaller and smaller because lots of these jobs are going to be hired out to AI or done overseas. So I don't feel like we as black people are prepared for this new coming work environment. We don't have the tools, we don't have the mindset. We don't even, one thing that I was realizing for myself I'm struggling with is project management. And I was like, if just the skill of project management is taught to kids at a young age, anything is possible, because any idea that they have can be manifested if they know how to run a project from beginning to end. And that's a big deal. The other topic of access to internet has been already discussed, and the access to digital tools, because this is going to be where most of the creation is going to be happening. So I feel like if we can just keep an eye out on that fourth industrial revolution and basically move as many people as we can into the creative fields, because all the other fields are going to start vanishing slowly. And yeah, that's
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. Thank you, leadership, for giving us this is a space that's been captured for a few decades, where creators create and they lose a lot of their creativity or their content to the masters. I would like to talk about the collection societies, the Samros, the Risas, the Sampras, and a whole number of them that collect money on behalf of creatives, mostly in the music space. The unfortunate bit is that the creators look at these bodies as if they are government or controlled structures that deal with their money. Most of them, if not all, are NPOs set up by individuals with their own directors, where they decide on their memorandum of incorporation and rules and the type of rates that they will eventually pay out from every rand that they collect on your behalf. The unfortunate part is that the legislature that controls how these bodies are supposed to work does not sit with one department. On the one hand, we have the DTI. On the other, we have Department of Arts and Culture. On the one hand, we have Department of Communications, where then SABC and ICASA will fall in. The issues we have at SAMRO and the different organizations, when you fight there, you need the referees to get involved when these people fall outside of what the legislation requires. And in certain areas where you find that the legislation is weak and you make contributions, you initiate discussions with the department to find what exactly is happening here. We are being, shortchanged in specific areas, then you don't get any feedback from department. One example is we've got two collection societies that deal with mechanicals in this country. One is called IMPRA, one is called SAMPRA. IMPRA has a handful of members and they've been around for almost 4 or 5 years. And then SAMPRA has been around for 14 years. They've got over 1,000 members. Now, there was an interview on TV with the Minister of Arts and Culture intervening on behalf of IMPRA to get money out of the SABC. Yet, the Minister has never done that for SAMPRA. And when we inquire why that's happening, I'm blocked by the Minister on Twitter just for asking that question. So now IMPRA is going around soliciting members of SAMPRA so that they could pay them the money that IMPRA collected on their behalf without their mandate. And this is happening across the board. You watch the Summers, we celebrate the Summers every year. The Summers made a loss of 12 million this year. They made a loss of 8 million this year. Your royalties are paying for that loss, in case you didn't know. So those are some of the challenges we are facing. When we go to the top, the industry has been captured in different avenues, in different ways. We enjoy the advent of technology and internet. But the legislation today that regulates the internet is weak in this country, in the sense that you have a Google that has YouTube, you have Apple that has iTunes, and the different Spotify's, Netflix, etc. None of those companies have a domicile in South Africa, meaning they work here, they're not paying tax, they're not employing anyone here. And yet, if you use your card, you feel like you're spending in a digital space. No, that money is still coming out of Capital. It's still coming out of Standard Bank. It's still coming out of a South African earned account. So that part has been frustrated at various stages within making those legislations tighter. And it seems like there are individuals who are being lobbied within certain structures of government to make sure that they frustrate and delay those processes as much as possible. So the last part I'd like to look into is that of transformation. I recently presented at a colloquium at Wits University. In the creative sector, transformation is a dream at this stage. If you look at the music industry, if we look across at the number of record labels that exist, find me one that's female-owned or female-operated. Look at the staging, lighting, and technical side of things. Find me one female-operated or female-owned majority company in that space. Almost non-existent. You come to the production, publishing, and distribution side. Find me a female-owned or female majority-operated business in that space. Almost non-existent. So there is an issue in that we have so many of these players in this sector that are female, yet when you have to look at the ownership of this industry, none of them are owning or controlling what they contribute in creating. And then the last part, we also, as people in this industry, we like to own homes, we'd like to have medical aid, we'd like to have retirement annuities, etc. But as contractors and freelancers, the banks are not really friendly. Insurance companies are not really friendly to that type of setup. So we need to seriously consider how we look at the environment that this industry produces workers, that they should be able to partake in being able to have their own type of financing, type of healthcare, type of insurance that will enable them to also be able to purchase houses and secure themselves.
Sure.
Thank you.
Good people, we've reached a crisis point. Two things are happening. One is that we have to leave this building soon. That is one. And two, the custodian of this meeting who is the president of the EFF, has to leave in another 10 minutes or so. So I don't want to be unfair. So to be as fair as possible, what I'm going to do is I'm going to relinquish all the hands that were left on this row here. Give them 2 minutes each. All right, so you will have 1.5 minutes, okay? You will have 1.5 minutes each on this side.
Those are the consequences of speaking last. Because you speaking earlier, you didn't raise hands. So you pay the price.
Yeah, and then I'll take 4 hands this side and we'll have the same rule for those hands on this side. Okay? Thank you very much. So we'll take, actually let's do this. Let me be more fair. We'll take 2 hands here, leadership. It must be extremely, extremely important. Right? And then we'll take 4 hands that side. So I'll take 1. Wait, can I? Yeah, I'm recognizing it. Yeah. This side here. And then, okay, that's fine. And then we'll take 4 hands from that side.
All right. Thank you, leadership. My name is Martin Dobu. I'm a songwriter, producer, and artist manager. Quick one. With the EFF coming into government next year, is it possible that in every township, disadvantaged areas as well, you can build art schools where, like your national schools of arts that are difficult for our people to access due to prices and being expensive, like government-owned art schools. Number 2, there's the issue that our artists are not allowed to perform in other provinces. We have seen with Casper Nyovest this past weekend trying to do his event at KZN, and people went on stage with guns trying to block his event and stuff like that, saying you are not from KZN, you cannot perform here. So can we look into that and make sure that we fix those kind of issues that we're experiencing? Other people have covered, and I don't want to take too much time. Thank you.
That is leadership.
Okay, my name is Blongelo. I'm formerly an engineer. I've just moved into film. Most of the issues that I wanted to talk about have been mentioned, but the one important one was the issue that we are our own worst enemies. The reason why I moved into studying film is because I don't know if the person is here or the people that blocked me are here. Within engineering, I had a pet hobby of filming and trying to get into the industry. But it was the black people that put walls, for me to get into the industry. I had to go and study because I was always being asked, so what qualification do you have? What qualification do you have? So I just wanted to address that guys, this asingavalela ngaphandle.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Lefa. I'm the creative stage designer. I'm also a project manager and production manager for live events. My thing I'd just like to point out is within the creative industry, within the live events industry, there seems to be a little bit of, how do you call it? In fact, let me just backtrack a little bit. About a week ago, we had one of the major concerts that's ever been hosted in this country. And unfortunately, there were little or no black companies that got involved in the actual industry. And I find it as being a problem in that. That whole thing of 30% of 70% being held by the biggest companies and 30% by the smaller company, I like to think that it needs to change. we as a small companies, we also need to be able to get involved into those industries. Sure. We've been working with some of the largest companies, and I feel that we also have the skills to be able to host that kind of events. That's one question. That's one thing. And then I'll just go through quickly. Some of the creative intellectual properties is also not recognized due to the fact that some of the big companies that we find ourselves we have to work with is they actually taking the credit. That's the second one. And then my last point is the hours that we do spend on site, and they're crazy, and they also poses health and safety reasons. I don't want to even get to what actually happened in that last concert, and most of you people actually, I believe that you know what happened. Sure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello everyone. Just want to take 2 minutes to mention this. I come from the central of Africa, which is Gabon, and after traveling 3 days here to assist to these meetings. I'm not from this industry, I'm into the constructions, but I just wanted to take the opportunity to say that whatever guys you're doing here, it has an impact there. And as creative people, you have to see Africa as a place where you can actually go and sell yourself there. Not limited to the south. And guys, also to the movement, that we have a continent to conquer, to get back. Actually, just one example. I'm a consumer of the South African music and South African artists, but it always has to be a French guy who translated South African movies that I have to watch. You see a black guy with French white voices, that means there's something wrong there, you see? So you have to take opportunity to actually go up there. It's not normal that you always have to think that South Africa ends up here and there's others, this is others. It's us. We have to conquer lands. This is a huge land. So please guys, think about it. This is up to the movement as well.
Sure.
The name is Wiseman Kunaningu. I just like to take a moment to highlight a few things and drill into the Copyright Amendment Bill specifically. Quickly, there's a few things that had happened with the Copyright Amendment Bill. One was that the rhetoric of the creative industry and the plight of the creative industry has been used as a smokescreen to basically aid massive users of creative content like Google. And that's why there's an increase in wide-ranging exceptions with absolutely no consideration of what the creative industry inputs were. So one of the main things that had happened, which is clearly indicative of this, was the PPC that was in charge of looking over the bill had an opportunity to meet with Google. They went and had the meeting. They were then invited to multiple different industry-related events so that they could see how that industry works and how copyright is used on a daily basis. Till this day, not even a response. And that is clearly translated into how the bill eventually, the bill we find ourselves in, the bill that was approved just a week ago. And secondly, there was a huge missed opportunity here in order to catapult our creative industry into the digital age. Because the bill as it currently stands leaves us very vulnerable in the digital era, and it leaves us at the behest of big companies like Google and YouTube, who can use creative content, and unless you have the ability to chase after them, you will not be able to actually get your just dues on the internet, because there's no way in which you can protect that. Thirdly, there's a thing in which we, another missed opportunity with the bill was we've put forward a call such that if you are going to have wide-ranging exceptions, you need to have some sort of compensatory system. And that system world over is known as the private copying levy. What the levy does is it's a percentage on every device that copies creative content. So your flash drives, your phones, your laptops, and that then allows the creative industry to, one, fund itself, and then two, compensate for the mass usage that happens. That is nowhere in the bill. In fact, it was proposed since 2015 multiple times, and it's still not there.
Can I ask you to finish your thoughts to me in writing through email?
Perfect.
Yeah, because I think this is it's an important discussion.
But one last thing is the way in which ICASA and by extension the Department of Arts and Culture are failing the creative industry. One, they grant licenses to broadcasters who are, by virtue of being broadcasters, are going to use creative content, but do not necessarily check to see if those broadcasters, prior to granting that license, have the license to broadcast that content. So you find yourselves with the likes of Sam Rowe and every other music organization having to chase after broadcasters, and it takes years and it costs money. Meanwhile, all you could do is one of your ICASA requirements prior to getting a license to showcase that you have those licenses. Similarly with events, as one of your JOC requirements, it should be a showcase that you have the requisite license to play the music at your event. Thank you.
Sanbonan, Ninjani. My name is Stanley Cos. I'm the Deputy President of the Association of Independent Record Companies of South Africa. Leadership, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be here and to see creatives engaging without fear or favor. My request is that one, let's look at the Department of Labor. They must recognize artists of this country as workers. Sure. Their excuse has been that they work less hours, but they have no idea that it takes days to rehearse. So please assist with the Department. Secondly, we are failed by lack of intelligence systems in our country. King Mnada is playing everywhere in the world as we speak today. But we have no way of making sure that each and every country that plays his music compensate that effectively. For a boy that rose without radio stations, but his music in Libombo. So if we can look into the systems development and the intelligence unit of our country improving, we will not have Google going to our own parliament to try and push for their own content to be passed because they own YouTube, they own all these other platforms that are available in digital systems. Our request is that leadership, please also assist that in making sure that artists are recognized. One artist employs over 13 artists. Braringo was here, he's got a band. Those 13 people looks after a lot of families. They cannot continue to say they are failed by our country, our departments, our funding institutes. All these available institutes has become a problem because everybody that wants to grow in the arts industry must leave their respective provinces to come to Johannesburg. When will we create a system that allows arts and culture to make sure that the resources of the country are distributed equally in all the provinces so that I can express myself in my Tsonga village in Bushbuck Ridge without having to come to Joburg, because that is where exploitation begins. You come here, you have no accommodation. You come here, you know nobody. You cannot even record quality because you're in a rush to get a bus. All these things can be changed. Our artists have proved that they've got the talent. King Mnada is a perfect example in this particular case, that all you need is just systems in place that can allow you to grow. Sure. It is unfortunate that we have a short space of time to discuss relevant industry matters that affect us as leadership. By the way, this leader is from Kapaso. I'm from Eku. Maybe we can engage after the meeting. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you very much. I think equally we can engage by email as well, and we'll continue talking afterwards. Sure. I'm going to take, unfortunately, only 4 hands from this side.
Advertising.
We've taken advertising. So I'll take. Fashion. Where is fashion? Oh, you are fashion. Oh, I'm told you are fashion. So I'll take fashion, and then I'll take advertising back, and then I'll take Lisa because we work with, and then for fairness I'll take the last hand there at the back. Oh, okay, no problem. And then I'll take the red hat at the back, the red hat, and then I'll take sexual harassment.
Thank you very much.
Joela, my name is Nkaru Ross. I'm within the fashion industry, one which is non-existent, obviously, because of the huge influx of cheap Chinese imports. Looking at myself right now, I can say South Africa, it's my skinny blue socks. The rest is China, Taiwan, Vietnamese, whatever. But, you know, basically, when we talk about these things, I realize the most important thing in this thing is economics. I read somewhere where it says AfriForum has around about 100,000 members. And all these members contribute 100 rands each and every month. Why Gaburena Resatomi a similar thing, but that thrives to actually jumpstart businesses or industries? Because I'm sure 100,000 professionals can be found amongst us that can do that and actually increase the number as the time goes on. Because if we are looking at something like 11 million per month or 10 million euro per month, how much is it in a year? You're talking about 100 million. That can kickstart a couple of industries. Over a decade, you're looking at 1 billion. So I think we should take that into consideration. Or 100.
Sure.
Then we start looking at this.
Thank you very much. I'll take advertising.
Thank you. Thank you, leadership. My name is Lebo Kandwani. I come from advertising, broadcasting media, and digital media. 15 years of experience is what I have. 10 of those years I was at SABC. At some point, the advocate was my CEO. That's during the days of the Green Revolution. I've been listening to a lot of the people here, and as someone who comes from advertising, I cannot overemphasize the need to have an intervention when it comes to transformation. It's a boys' club. It's seriously a boys' club, and we know of the money that is flowing in those circles, and it's a hassle for us to make it. I mean, as it is, we are forced not to dream to become CEOs.
Sure.
Because you spend 7 years as a junior media buyer, 5 more years to become a senior media buyer, 5 more years to become an implementation planner. Before you become a director, you're already 20 years into the industry. One person, 1-2 years, director, they're there. I cannot emphasize, I mean, I've chosen the reason why I came here is because I want to actively participate in ensuring that transformation takes place. Sure. And I'm here to avail myself. I've had an opportunity to live in Kenya for the past 2 years. And I've seen when people are doing, how our people over there are doing for themselves. My brother over there spoke about the need for our artists and creators to start thinking about Africa. I mean, we need to start thinking about it. I mean, Kenyans, East Africans, they consume South African content. They consume South African music. I mean, you'd be surprised that Lucky Dube to this day is still what an idol in Kenya. Every next Kenyan I met would say to me, why did you kill Lucky Dube? I mean, just to, in fact, some of them will call me Lucky Dube. How I wish I was one. You know? But we need to start thinking like that. We need to really start thinking of South Africa as one country in Africa.
Sure.
Not just one country where and we tend to think that this is the only country where the dreams happen. We have to start thinking about Nigeria, all these other African countries. We need to start thinking about.
Sure.
I'd also like the leadership to help us shake up the CASA. I mean, CASA is really, they're sitting on the laurels. The reason why a lot of black companies are not mushrooming because CASA is not really making it easy. MGDA is one of them. I don't even know what they currently do. Yes, and we also need to start thinking, challenging those white bodies which are governing this industry. I mean, in the internet we have IEB. And IEB is, the entire board there is all white. You find out the person who's in charge of transformation is white. What do they know about transformation? You understand? So we need to start really taking it upon ourselves to start challenging this. I mean, in the 10 years that I was at SABC, I was in commercial enterprises, and I know what these people are talking about. You understand? There are billions and billions of money flowing, and that money goes to a few, a very selective few. You understand? Some of my peers, whom I started in, they are CEOs, MDs.
Okay.
Thanks
very much. Lisa?
Someone's on a TV provider for us, so they're an international company which is London-based called WPP. Yes. WPP owns AWT, and it owns TBWA, Draft, SCB, I can go on and on. How can our money continue to leave our country when we are the consumers of these products? It's flabbergasting and it's daylight robbery.
Sure.
I know I was not recognized, but I have to make a very important point. My name is Jimmy Bass, and my background is asset finance, but I've recently started a business in fashion. And what we do is we promote South African fashion designers abroad, mainly in Milan and Paris and in Germany. And what I've realized is that Germans wear German designs, the French wear French designers in retailers. I know that there is a 40% tax that's been imposed on cheap Chinese goods. But your Edgar's groups and your Fushini groups are very happy to pay that money because they've got it. I think we should stop with that, and we should rather force them to take that 40% and invest them into local designers. Force them to have South African designs into their stores. And that's the only way we're going to stimulate this economy, and that is by supporting local entrepreneurs. Thank you.
I was going to shout at both of you for stealing my time, but you made an interesting point. Thank you very much.
Dumelang, my name is Lionel. I'm a candidate attorney with an interest in taxation. I'm a debt counselor and a broadcaster. Points that I would like to raise. First and foremost, I would like to see more spaces for physically challenged people who are actually actors and actresses. When they pass on, you'd find that their families cannot actually finance the estate going forward. So what actually had your house, which was 3 million for 1 million. So that needs to be actually looked into. The other space that we need to look into is the financial management side of things. Many of our celebrities are actually taking advantage of where credit assessment is actually never done when they actually grant them loans and so forth. And that is actually called reckless lending. Many of them are over-indebted, and as a result, you'd find that they cannot actually live or leave any legacy for their families. So that is something that the political party would probably need to look into, just so that we can actually find having a government-owned bank that can actually bridge the gap that the creative spaces are actually being left out. Just so that we can actually have loans and
I think you've been reading our documents. Last one, Mabatu Monso.
I think across all our different industries, we can all agree that we need a sexual harassment office, a gender office that can look into the different pays. We all know that there's a rate for men, there's a rate for white people, and then the least is the rate for black women. There is no recourse for us in terms of sexual harassment. You apply for funding, you get asked to dinner, you don't go, you don't get the money. And a lot of us in the television industry, if you work for a production, there is no HR office where you can report sexual harassment. And when you go to the broadcaster, there's also no definite structure of how they handle sexual harassment. So there needs to be an independent sort of office where anyone can go and report the sexual harassment that happens on set.
Are you stealing my time?
I'm hijacking, sorry, I have to hijack.
Absolutely.
I've got some requests for EFF, please. The EFF, if they can task themselves with researching artists overseas, how much do they contribute in GDP from merchandise sales, concerts, and so on? Secondly, copyright law in music. I don't know how it affects other industries, but after your death, 50 years later, it becomes public domain. So it's something you can't leave for your children. can EFF please drive that we can, if I've composed a song, if somebody wants to remix it 50 years after I die, they can still come to my family and my family can earn something from that. Payola is the one, maybe even if I can cut my points, this is the one that I really came for. It's very easy to end payola, it's not a very difficult thing. The first thing when you try to fight payola, they are going to say to you, where's the proof? I can guarantee you will never find the proof because it's in brown envelopes at the car. There must be an intake system at all broadcasters, whether it's private and public broadcasters, so that you know how much, those that were rejected, what were the reasons for that? And then it must be sure that then you know that how much of it is from South African owned, not Sony or Universal. How much is of indigenous South African owned? This one, I'll touch one on the actors. When there are collaborations that come are white owned. You are not going to be an international movie if you belong to a casting agent that's run somewhere in Dobsonville by someone who just started it. So we have to understand why is it monopolized by agencies. I've also been taught now that there are also facilities, those are also white owned. Yeah. So EFF, if they can please check those. The rest of my points I will send via email. Thank you.
Leadership, thank you very much. I'm sure the President will touch on these issues, but let me thank you for the invaluable input that you've made here today. We've taken into consideration the issues that you've raised, all the issues.
It's one point.
No, leadership.
One, it's important.
No, we're done. I'll come to you, don't worry. We're going to solve your issues. So what is important is that we are going to continue these discussions. We're going to keep engaging each other and engaging each other on what must be done, right? Because I think it's an important point that you make. This is our first meeting with the industry, and I can promise you now it is going to be the most effective that you are ever going to see. That is one. And then two, because I understand that there are burning issues from Pomolepo, there are other people. He even wrote me a note that he wants to raise an issue around bills. So, in order to us to continue those discussions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give everybody here my email address, and two, my cell phone number, right? So that you will then raise those issues with me. One, I will respond and we will create a group in which we are then able to continue these discussions. I hope that will suffice for now, because we're still going to meet and deal with how to systematically change the system. I hope this has been as valuable to you as it has been to us as an organization. I'm now going to introduce the national chairperson.
This nature. I can assure you that